many changes have happened, in the recent past, which has brought skilling now to the forefront. How do we complement the other agencies also in terms of capacity building for healthcare sector in the country?
So today we have with us Mr. Ashish Jain, who is the CEO of Healthcare Sector Skill Council, which aims to facilitate creation of a robust and vibrant ecosystem for quality education and skill development in allied healthcare. He has handled manufacturing sector as well as Associations Council, which represents 100 sectoral associations. He has been a part of various government industry, joint missions, and business missions. He has completed his postgraduate diploma in business management in 1986 and has gained work experience of 20 years working closely with the government, industry, academic institutions, global standard organizations, multilateral bodies, policymakers, and alike. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ashish. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thanks a lot.
And just to begin with the conversation, so with more than 20 years of working closely with the government, industry, and academic institutions, and even some global standard organizations, so what would you say has changed in regard to the approach of skill development in the country?
I think I would start by saying I think we have traveled a long distance since we started. And if you talk about this skilling, probably I think skilling is something which has been happening in the country since inception, so it's not something new. But what has happened, very recently in some, last couple of years is that it has become more structured. It has become, visible to people, I think, and that's too because of launch of the, Skill India mission by the Honorable PM himself. I think he has been talking about the skilling at multiple forums, be it international or in the national forums as well, which is again bringing it at the forefront in terms of people are getting aware of the skilling as such in the country as well, and and it's getting due importance as such. Also, I think various initiatives have been taken in the past which has brought skilling to the forefront now. So, for example, the separate ministry was created for this, constituted for this, which is the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. We had NSDC created it, which actually then led to various initiatives for skilling across country and bringing it to the current form of skilling what we have. SSCs have been created, which were actually industry-led bodies, which helped us to see what kind of roles are required by industry, and so that skilling can be aligned to the industry needs. I think there are many changes have happened, in the recent past, which has brought skilling now to the forefront. Skilling has been looked at as an aspirational value as well, has been attached to it now, which was, I think, missing earlier. So I think skilling is gaining prominence now, and if the best example of this prominence is probably the National Education Policy, which was released just yesterday. I think Cabinet has approved yesterday only, which now talks about vocational education and skilling as part of the education as well. I think so. We have reached a certain stage. We have come a long way, but still, if you have to say that, I think it's still a long journey to go.
Definitely. And you talked about the sector skills councils that have been established by NSDC. So do you feel there's a change that has happened in terms of skilling and training after these councils have been formed?
I certainly agree to that point. I will say your short answer is yes. And how it has changed, I just alluded upon in my the earlier answer also. So SSCs are basically being directly led by the industry. So what happens once we work with the industry directly, we get to know, we know what is their requirement. We know what is that they want in this particular program or a course, or what are the competencies required by them for a person to become employable. So what we have the advantage of these SSCs being coming in, that they are actually directly interacting with the industry closely. When we say interacting, it's not industry interacting, it's the industry which is actually creating competencies themselves for the employment in their organization. So the bridge, or there is a gap, which used to exist, say, for example, in between the expectation of the industry and what is being taught to the student, has now gone down very narrow, because the industry keeps on changing very fast. So I think all are keeping pace with that. But that gap has now gone away. Skilling courses are created which are actually required as per the needs of the sector. And that's why the students who are doing these skilling programs become employable from day one for the organization. And of course they enhance, in terms of the productivity for the organization. They don't have to spend money on, any extra training to them. I think so that's advantage for everyone, that the industry gets their own people which they want. The youth of the country is being trained on what industry wants, and they get employed. So I think it's a good mix of it, and it's a win-win for all in that sense.
Wonderful. And that's actually really great to hear. And now talking about the aspect that you mentioned about education and not being in par with the industry expectations that's there. So since you've also worked with a lot of educational institutions, so like Pearson Education and IIT Delhi. So do you believe the education dissemination is at par with what industry?
I would say, as I said, I would say we keep on hearing, and we keep on reading the news, which comes on that so and so engineers have come out and not employable by the industry now, and there's a gap in the curriculum and the industry expectation. But I would look at it a little more positively. I think there is a gap which is which nobody can deny, but I think a lot of work has happened in that direction as well, that how do they actually reduce that gap. I think a lot of institutions have been provided the flexibility to devise their own curriculums. They have been given flexibility to tie up with the industry so that they can come in direct connect with the industry as well. I think a lot of work has happened in that direction as well, and I believe, as I said, still work has to be done so that there's no gap remain between the industry expectation and our educational programs. And the current, the yesterday's cabinet decision in terms of the policy, I think is a step in that direction only. And I'm sure we are working on that. We'll move to that also, and we will see that any student coming out from anywhere, whichever area of education or skilling, would have an employable skills with them for sure.
Definitely. And now coming back to the current role that you're heading as the CEO of the Healthcare Sector Skills Council. So what are some of the programs specifically in healthcare that you're running to skill the youth in the particular domain of healthcare?
See, our constitution of, as an Healthcare Sector Skills Council was done by the industry themselves. And we are actually focusing on the programs which are required by the sector today. And we have gone by the principle of 80-20, which means what are those 20 or 30 odd occupations which can get maximum employment for people. So what we have done is interaction in conversation with the industry people, leaders who are there. And I would like to just emphasize on this. I think we are guided by the best minds in the country, not only in country, probably in the world as well. If you talk about our chairman, Dr. Naresh Trehan, who is a visionary in it himself. We have Dr. Devi Shetty, who is part of this. We have Director AIIMS Delhi, who is the founder member. So we have a lot of wisdom and the expertise and the vision behind what we are doing today. And the kind of courses what we are doing today is probably which are the need of the sector, which are employable today, which people need, the sector need today, hospitals need today, with the clinics needs today. And we have focused on multiple roles. One is the specialized roles, which are a little more specialized, maybe required by tertiary hospital, and then some which are required, like a multi-skilling kind of roles which can be deployed by small clinic, single doctor clinic kind of setups as well. So we have all sort of that roles created where people can find employment. Also, very interestingly, what we have done is, during this scenario of COVID-19, we have come up with specific response to COVID-19 programs as well. We have developed online modules which is actually training people on COVID-19, the healthcare professionals, what to do, what not to do, how to take a sample, how to test. So we are working on those aspects also and try and see how we can support government initiative and see that we can build that capacity. For another example in that case is, like we had been, discussing a lot of shortages of people who know how to work on ventilators, how to manage ventilators. So we did, organized various webinars from experts within India and outside experts, so that people can be quickly, at least, some bit of training can be provided to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to share, we have people from not only our country or the best of the institutions in our country, but other countries as well, which have been sharing their knowledge, sharing their examples, how they're treating COVID-19 patients using ventilators, how, they are, doing this. We are doing it by case examples as well. So I think we have done multiple, roles. We are doing it say starting from what we call a general duty assistant, which is a kind of equivalence to a ward boy, and then going to other programs in the administration where we're talking about, let's say, duty managers who manages the entire ward of an hospital, to front reception. So we had done multiple roles which are required as per need, and we ourselves continue to work on as the need basis. See, one of the very prominent roles which we work on is the emergency medical technician. This is a person who is deployed on the ambulances. So this person actually ensures that the patient or any person is being transported safely to the hospital, and he's been or she's been trained on doing that. So I think we have been doing, our bit in terms of trying to see how we can bridge the gap, skill gap for healthcare sector, because there is a huge gap in the skill gap for healthcare as well. And we keep on hearing about saying that, so much of shortage of doctors, so much of nurses, and so much of other, occupations. As doctors and nurses are definitely being regulated by MCI now, NMC, and the Nursing Council. So we do not go into directly certifying the doctors or nurses because that's not our domain. But we do work on the allied health side, where we can provide support services. We can work on the specialized short programs, niche programs for nurses also, or doctors also, whichever is required. So I think that's our focus. How do we complement the the other agencies also in terms of capacity building for healthcare sector in the country?
Now moving ahead, so leveraging partnerships is another aspect that a lot of organizations look into to expand the reach of their training programs. And now more than ever, when a lot of training programs have to be moved online and you cannot bring a lot of students into an offline space. So how would you say that you're leveraging partnerships specifically? So be it governmental, institutional, or even private ones, for particular aspects like training or assessing or knowledge sharing. So how are you doing that?
I would say, I think the key mantra for us was always partnerships. And it's not about COVID now or current scenario. I think we have always believed in partnership and collaboration with various departments, various entities. So we had always worked in the collaboration. So we work with multiple government departments today. We work with multiple hospitals today. We collaborate directly with the OEMs also in the medical device sector as well. So is the training institutions, assessing bodies, experts. So I think our belief, and I think board also believes that we as in one entity as sitting as 5, 10, 15 or 100 people can't do justice to our country given the size and the the geography of the country. I think we had to believe in partnership, and we had to collaborate with people who are actually working in this area, and we have always done that since inception. So we had a lot of partnerships from, say for example, I mentioned about ambulance services. So we have partnership with ambulance services which run ambulance services in our country to see that they provide training for our people. So like for example, 108 ambulance, GVK MRI. We have a BVG like MEMS, which is providing services in Maharashtra and so many other states as well. So we're directly collaborating with them. Similarly, with the medical device sector, we had a partnership with the devices companies directly who comes and help us in terms of delivering training. So is the partnership with so many training partners across country. So currently, if you look at, although this number goes up and down, on a continuous basis, if as on a date today while I'm talking to you, I think we have 390 plus training centers across country which are delivering healthcare training across the country. And I'm happy to share that healthcare training is being delivered in every state. So we have not reached to the stage of say every district, but that's the aim, that we should have one training center in each district also. And I'm sure we'll reach out to that as well. And we have already, more training centers which are not directly related to us, but doing training on healthcare, and they come back to us for assessment and certification. So if you look at from that perspective, at least we must have already crossed 500 plus training centers across country. So I think we had done those partnerships to see that how we leverage the competencies of each of the partners and maximize the outcome. About the online programs, I think you're very right. Given the current scenario, I think everybody's talking about online programs, how to move online. I think we are also looking in that direction and trying to see whatever we can do in online. But having said this, I would have to also, raise a caution here. There's a limit to which healthcare can go in online, because you can't have those skill set being trained online, everything till the time person does it himself herself, it can't be learned. So I want to quote another very good example from the Honorable Prime Minister himself. I think he spoke on the World Youth Skill Day. While he gave an example of cycle, a person actually know to how to ride a cycle. He said there are two components. One is the knowledge and one is skills. A person watching a YouTube or any online medium can know what does the cycle look like. Where is the pedal there? Where is the handle for the cycle? How do you drive cycle? But till the time you actually drive cycle, you will not know how to drive the cycle. So it is also important that you look at the YouTube and the online programs, but finally to ride the cycle, you have to do it on your own. You have to do it, only then you can actually be proficient or efficient in what you are going to deliver. So, it is very, very important for our sector because because they deal with the lives of the people. So anything wrong, any mistake can lead to some serious consequences, which we definitely would like to avoid. So we are moving on to the online as much as possible in the areas which are, say, for example, not directly connected to the patient, which is more administrative, let's say, from the medical record perspective or the administration side of the healthcare. Or like I said about the COVID-19, which are the existing healthcare professionals, we are just kind of refreshing their skill and providing them very, very niche training, which is directed towards, because they are already trained into it and they could actually grasp that. So we are very, very cautious in going online, but we are moving online because, as you may already be aware, that the teleconsultation, telemedicine, telehealth is something which is being talked about widely today. So we are already devising our programs in those lines as well to see that we cater to the needs of the sector again there and provide best of the services so that the people coming out of the system can deliver the healthcare services in the best effective manner.
Wonderful. And just coming to the end of the conversation, so what would be your tips or suggestions to some of the professionals who are wanting to, venture into the space of healthcare, but considering the whole scenario right now, are confused as to what step to take for a particular skill or which skill particularly to look after? So like you said, telemedicine is something that's coming up right now and you're also working towards it. So that could be one. And on the other side, what would be your suggestion to the industry as such, that how should they approach the hiring of the youth currently, not based, specifically on a particular skill set, or how should they assess a person's capability right now in the current times?
See, in terms of the anybody wants to enter the health sector, I think the opportunity is enormous. Whether it's an online program, offline program, doesn't matter. As I said, the skill gap in the country is quite huge. Doctors, nurses are definitely being, that capacity is being enhanced and increased, by the government of India already. But to support them, we need large number of allied health professionals as well. I think, and that's the skill gap. If I have to, talk about, I think by 2025 or 2030, we'll need almost 26 lakh additional people in the market. Being trained on the healthcare sector. So there's a huge demand skill gap for the healthcare sector now. People train in the healthcare, which needs to be filled. And people needs to be skilled and trained for that. I don't see there's a problem for a job for a person who comes into the healthcare and would not be able to find a job. Yes, it is possible that person may not get a job within the city which he or she prefers, because given the limitation where the healthcare facilities are. But I'm sure if person is willing and open to move out, job should not be a problem for a person in the healthcare. And best of it is that I always tell whenever I go into any kind of forums where I see students also, the best thing which this sector gives is not money. I think money is definitely you earn money while you work. I think if you can save one life, the satisfaction which you derive from that, the satisfaction which you derive from seeing the smile on a person's family once it is he or she is saved or rescued, I think that's something which I think no one can ever think of in any other sector. So that's the kind of prominence of the sector. That's the kind of respect the sector demands, and that's the kind of respect sector gets you into you. So while we were doing one of our previous shoots with somebody, I was told that a person has done a program like a general duty assistant, which is probably the one which is very basic program for us, is like a ward boy. But he told me that when he goes to his village, he's been referred to as Dr. Saab aa gaye hain. And the pride he feels in that, and his family feels in that, he is being referred as Dr. Saab in his place. I think that's something, tremendous, which cannot be, I think, given in any other sector for that matter. That's very important. From the industry, I would only request, I think they should focus on more and more, hiring the people with the skill set, and the stamp of that, or the guarantee of that skill set comes from the certification or skill competency certification. I would, we are definitely proposing this to industry at multiple forums at our level also, and we keep on doing that. I think industry would also come forward, and in some cases they're already doing it, that they should also look at, paying some premium to this skill set. If the person is competent, I think if there is a premium which can be added to the skill set, may not be monetary. It could be just recognizing the person in a certain manner, maybe a different, color of a uniform or a badge on the uniform. I think that's make person, motivated that yes, I had done something worthwhile, that I've gone through a skill competency certification, and that's been recognized separately. And that's what I think we can do for, creating more such people into the sector.
Great. And that brings us to the close of the conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Ashish, for joining us.